Reviewing the highest rated fragrances on Fragrantica, I take some of the most critically acclaimed fragrances on the review platform Fragrantica, and I effectively tell you guys what I think of them and whether or not I agree with their high ratings. Today is part 1 of 3 of a series that is building up to the final release of our own brand's next fragrance, and that is Atrium Fragrance Mr. Momentum. Mr. Momentum, like all our releases, aims to bring a new idea into the industry to try and make it more creative in general in our own way. It puts a new twist on the blue genre of fragrances. You can see the note breakdown on screen right now, and effectively the idea of this 3-part series is that we cover 2 highly rated fragrances of each note in a 3-part video series that helps you learn about individual notes as well as how Mr. Momentum will smell, kind of telling you about how each note will play out in Mr. Momentum overall as well. This is a limited pre-order window, guys. 5 days only you can get Mr. Momentum. By the time you're seeing part 3 of this series, it will be available to pre-order. We can do a maximum of 400 bottles only for pre-order. Use the link in the description down below, guys, to be notified of when it's going to be available for release so you do not miss out. And finally, also remember, guys, with all pre-orders, we give a complimentary sample to try the fragrance out first. If it's not for you, you can simply return the 100 ml completely sealed and we'll give you a full refund. Thank you so much, guys. Let's begin the series. So the first top note of Mr. Momentum is basil. Basil is not a very difficult scent to explain because most people have cooked with basil. It is a herb, it's green, herbaceous, sharp, aromatic. It gives a very distinct opening to Mr. Momentum. It gives it a sort of piercing effect. I'm not sure why, but basil kind of smells more masculine to me as a fragrance note overall. So basil, I would say, is a note that's great for giving a fragrance a distinct uniqueness, and is also something that is reminiscent that a lot of people can associate with it. Obviously, a lot of people have had memories with basil. I think it is a great top note, and I'm excited to review these 2 fragrances that are highly rated that contain the note of basil. The first fragrance is Creed Royal Water. And by the way, guys, you can see all the ratings on Fragrantica for all of them throughout this video. We'll edit them in. Creed Royal Water is a fragrance I never really bothered to look at. It's not always the fragrance people talk about in the brand of Creed. Creed is kind of died down in its hype in general, actually, ever since Aventus carried on disappointing people. So Royal Water is an interesting fragrance. When I first smelled it, I thought to myself, this is a really interesting vetiver fragrance. I thought it smelled green and woody. And I looked at a note breakdown and I remembered, oh yeah, this is a basil fragrance. It's the whole point of this video. So it is a basil fragrance, but I think it does have woody notes in there in the note breakdown. So I think that's what gave a vetiver impression in my mind, because vetiver is a green and woody note as well, but it's not vetiver, it's basil. It's not a sharp or piercing basil. I would say they've done it quite smoothly in Royal Water, and I think the name is quite apt. Even though there's no watery notes in the note breakdown, it smells like a slightly watery fragrance, a little bit neroli based, green, woody, musky, a little bit oak moss based as well. This sort of smells to me like if the soapy, clean green aspect of Mugler Cologne come together, had a baby with the musky oak moss base of Dior Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette. So Royal Water does smell clean and easy to like, but at the same time it has a maturity, a sensibility, a traditional class to it while still smelling modern. This smells like a very classical kind of scent DNA. I'm not sure what year Royal Water came out, but it does very much fit into the Creed style of things. A little bit mature, decent longevity, around 6 hours with a medium projection, so it's not a bad performer. Whether or not it's worth the price of a Creed fragrance, I would probably say no, but it's worth checking out. This is a solid release, definitely suited for the spring and summer. It smells traditionally masculine. I would give this a 7.5 out of 10. I'm glad I checked this out. And then we have Essentiel Parfum Bois Impérial. This is a fragrance a lot of people have been hyping up because it's made by Quentin Biche. A lot of people might consider this to be the best fragrance in Essentiel Parfum. This kind of has some similarities to Ganymede, another popular fragrance from the same perfumer. It smells green, woody, a little bit spicy, which makes sense because agave wood smells woody and spicy. That's kind of the aspect it gives. And of course, the greenness comes from the basil. Again, more of the smooth basil, whilst Mr. Momentum has more of a fresh, piercing basil. But I will say Essentiel Parfum is done nicely. It's a very smooth fragrance overall. It kind of smells a little bit like Louis Vuitton's Imagination, actually, in my opinion. It smells a little bit green tea-esque, very woody, clean. There's definitely some citruses in Essential Parfums, Bois Impérial, even though I can't really see it on the note breakdown, but I can detect it. So this is a great signature scent, basically. If you want something that's smooth, green, woody, musky, and I feel like the musks used here, there are some similarities to Ganymede. I feel like the fragrance comes out with multiple aspects. You experience something new with each wearing. I have it on my wrist here right now. It's very clean, inoffensive. I get a soft to medium projection. I don't think it's a beastly fragrance on my skin, maybe 8 hours at most. So it's not a bad performer, and it's an average price tag fragrance, about £70. It does smell artistic and nice for that price tag, I must admit. So if you want a signature scent you can wear pretty much all year round that is green, a little bit unique, then it's a solid fragrance. For me personally, I give this an 8 out of 10. 37.9% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys really want to see our channel grow, go ahead and click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. Then the note of ginger. Ginger as a note is aromatic, herbaceous, spicy, fresh, sharp. It has some warmth to it as well. If you ever drink ginger, let's say in a hot drink, you can tell it kind of fires you up. It's a little bit burny, let's say. It burns a little bit. So it is a warm, sort of spicy note overall that has other aspects to it to balance it out, like the fresh aromatics I was talking about. Again, ginger, a lot of people have cooked with it, you know what it is, it's an ingredient, and I think it's actually one of the most underappreciated and underrated notes in perfumery. I think it's extremely attractive and it works really well with woody ambers. It's sort of like another kind of note that's similar to cardamom. It has spicy aspects, but it also works with woody ambers. So ginger is a great note. It makes the fragrance interesting, multifaceted, and handsome in my opinion. So the first fragrance I'm going to review, one I've been meaning to review for a long time, that is Azzaro's The Most Wanted Parfum. You guys know how much I'm a huge fan of the original The Most Wanted. So the Parfum has an insane score on Fragrantica, like a bajillion out of 10, I think. Don't quote me on that. Azzaro The Most Wanted Parfum. This is obviously an evening fragrance. So how does it differ from the original The Most Wanted? This, to me, smells more multifaceted. It is a little bit more romantic, a little bit more mature, sophisticated than the original The Most Wanted. This opens up very fruity, almost bubblegum-esque, boozy, ambery, and the ginger is not a huge player here. It kind of gives a slight sharpness in the background there. This is an extremely sexy fragrance. It's very smooth straight away. It changes a little bit on the dry down, becomes a little bit more amber vanillic. It becomes more reminiscent of the original The Most Wanted. The Most Wanted line in general, I feel like can harken back to Stronger With You. If you enjoy fragrances like Stronger With You, absolutely, you will enjoy The Most Wanted Parfum. It is very well blended, but I don't think it's necessarily making its own ideas. I kind of feel like it is borrowing ideas, if I'm being honest with you, but it has great performance, at least 8 hours with a medium projection, very sexy, very easy to like. I would give it a 9 out of 10, a great evening scent you can wear mainly in the autumn and winter, and you can get away with it in the spring as well. And then of course, we have to talk about this fragrance, YSL L'Homme. This is the type of fragrance I'm talking about when I say ginger pairs well with woody ambers. Smell this fragrance, you'll see what I mean. Very handsome, citrus, ginger, woody, amber perfumery. Extremely attractive, easy to like, very smooth, one of the best blends ever made. I wish I had an original bottle. Maybe the old formulation used to perform a lot better. I'm not sure, I think that was the case, but of course, like Nuit, which is the cardamom equivalent of this fragrance, they've both been heavily reformulated. But this is a fantastic, handsome man's office fragrance, let's say, even for school. If you want like a really inoffensive work time, daytime fragrance, it lasts around 4 hours, so you do need to reapply. This is one of the best scent profiles ever made. The ginger here is just handsome. It kind of flows and glows in this fragrance. It just pairs well with the woody ambers really nicely. It gives it its distinct edge. Ginger is definitely one of the star notes in the original L'Homme, similar to how cardamom is that for La Nuit de L'Homme. In Mr. Momentum, ginger, I will say, kind of comes off similarly to how it comes off here. It is sharp, handsome, refreshing, a little bit spicy, contributing to Mr. Momentum's sort of sporty, zingy feel that the scent gives off overall, at least in the opening. Scent-wise, this is a 10 out of 10, but because of its limitations in other ways, I will give YSL's L'Homme an 8 out of 10. And then finally, the last top note of Mr. Momentum is grapefruit, a very sharp, zingy, tart citrus note that is very refreshing. I think they've used it in Terre OG, for example, even though it's not listed there. But grapefruit, yes, if you want a very refreshing note, this is the citrus for you. And again, it contributes to that very refreshing, sporty, zingy feel of Mr. Momentum, like I told you about. The first fragrance I'm going to talk about is Dolce&Gabbana's Light Blue Forever, a fragrance bottle I used to own a few years back that got a lot of hype for being a very photorealistic grapefruit scent that to me is quite simplistic. It goes grapefruit and dries down to some nice light musks. I don't think it was that groundbreaking. If you really want just grapefruit, then fair enough, you can try the fragrance out if you can still get a bottle of it. But to me, it was quite an underwhelming scent. It's definitely summertime only. It's very sharp, refreshing. I think it's an okay scent. It has a nice grapefruit in there, but it's not the most mind-blowing scent just because it doesn't feel like there's a lot going on. It feels a little bit incomplete, if I'm being honest with you. And I personally still would prefer and would recommend Light Blue Intense to you guys instead. I got 6 hours in the medium projection. It's not a bad fragrance. It becomes more smooth on the dry down. It's refreshing, easy to wear. But overall, I'd give it maybe a 6.5 out of 10, nothing more than that, because I just feel like the hype was overdone for this scent. What do you guys think? Did you try this flanker out? Do you agree or disagree? And then lastly, the release of Parfum de Marly's Perseus, which is the latest freshie from PDM, the one released in 2024. It is very thick, creamy, heavy, musky perfumery with some spicy aspects in there, some citruses as well. I feel like it's a blend of citruses in this fragrance. It doesn't feel like any one in particular. It's not like focused on one. It's not like Terre, the original, which is obviously an orange-based citrus fragrance. This feels like a mixture of them. It's very sharp, clean, and thick. So it's not a fragrance DNA that smells like it's anything new in particular. It smells very traditional, but it just feels like it's substantial. I feel like they've used a really high concentration in there. It's probably an extrait de parfum, and it lasts a long time, at least 10 hours with a medium projection. So if you want a very safe, kind of standard citrus freshie that you know is going to perform, then PDM Perseus is there for you. It follows that usual trend of Parfum de Marly freshies where it smells high quality, it performs, but it just isn't that creative, it doesn't feel particularly niche. So it's up to you whether or not you think it's worth the price tag. It's a good spring and summer daytime scent. I give it an 8 out of 10 overall. And that concludes this video, guys. What are your thoughts on the notes discussed today and the fragrances discussed today as well? Do you agree or disagree with my opinions? Those are the top notes of Mr. Momentum. Look out for part 2, which will likely come tomorrow after this video, to see more of the highest rated fragrances on Fragrantica. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our previous Fragrantica video up here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.